All right, guys, this week we're talking about brood rearing cover on lamb beef. A lot of people think that this is, but it's really not just yet. Brood rearing cover is essential if you want turkeys on your landscape. We have to be producing more turkeys, and that is going to be through promoting, creating brood rearing cover on the landscape. And so a lot of people have this preconceived notion that by burning the timber, man, we're going to have awesome brood rearing cover. It's just coming, leaves are gone, it's black. I mean, it's just magical for turkeys. And they're not wrong in saying that it's good for turkeys, but that's not going to cut it when it comes to brood rearing cover, especially when the timber looks like this. Obviously, we've got a high stem count, which then means we've got closed canopy portion. There is some trees that have been cut. We're in close proximity to a food plot back behind us. But what really needs to happen if we want good quality brood rearing cover in this acreage is to, yes, be burning it, but we have to thin the timber. And so we would drastically remove a lot of this canopy, probably bring it from 80 to 100% closed canopy all the way down to a 20 to 30% closed canopy. That means 70% sunlight coming through here. We're going to do that through girdle and spray, hack and squirt, or cutting, felling, and taking some of this debris out, because we can't have it too clogged up for poults to be able to come through here, navigate. We want it to be a very much a foraging type destination, so easy mobility throughout this site. So debris load is essential to consider when you're turning closed canopy into brood rearing cover. Then what we would do is, yes, use prescribed fire, but we would use it in a frequent manner, right? So every 2 years, we're gonna have fire on this to basically reset it and allow herbaceous weeds. Some are gonna be annuals, some are gonna be perennials, but have bare ground and herbaceous weed cover dominating this site. And yes, it is in close proximity to a food plot, so we can go through and feather that edge along the food plot as well to basically create a little bit more cover, a little bit more structure there. If poults are out in the food plot, they've got some safety to come back to. Not only herbaceous weeds, but a little bit thicker along the edge. So there's a technique that, you know, if you like deer, but you also want turkeys, kind of go ham and egg type situation. So we're gonna be burning on a high frequency, drastically reduce the canopy, not litter the ground with debris and tops from those trees that have to be removed. Burn it again frequently and try and promote more brood rearing cover in here, bare ground and herbaceous weeds. When selecting a site to devote towards more brood rearing cover, what you're going to want to do is probably not have a ginormous area, honestly, because of the high frequency of burning that you would have to do, unless your goals and objectives are strictly for turkeys, which is great. Would love to work with you, but we would say, hey, let's take and set aside a couple areas, close proximity to food plots, closer proximity that could be sectioned off. Maybe it's a road system. Again, this is probably a 2-acre little wood block, but it's sandwiched between a heavily used road and the food plot. So it's not we're trying to have deer bed there. They might transition through here, but we can use it and have a distinct objective such as brood rearing cover for it, because it doesn't compete with other interests on the property. But you want a smaller unit that can be separated out from your larger prescribed fire burn units, because you're not going to be burning the other portions of your property, most likely in a high frequency rate, right? So it's easier to basically branch off a 2-acre section and burn that at a 2-year interval, opposed to some other units that might be 3, 4, 5-year burn intervals. This can be easily done, maintained with road system, food plot edge as your fire breaks. Easy to burn when the conditions are right, and again, separate out from your bigger units. Another consideration is not just talking timber from your brood rearing cover, but let's say we want to take this strip of timber and the food plot and really devote that to quality brood rearing cover. So what we would do is select a fall annual blend that's lighter on the cereal grains, so not a heavy amount of rye, wheat, oats in it. That can really get super dense in the springtime frame. And what we're going to do is only be planting during the fall. So it's going to go fallow during the spring and summer months. All that space in between what was last year's turnips, brassicas, maybe a few annual clovers in there that will flower throughout the spring to bring in some more insects. That is all going to be additive to this brood rearing cover. But again, we don't want it to be choked out, and we certainly don't want really thick, dense stands of perennial clovers. When birds are super young, they're probably not going to get into that. They need to be able to maneuver throughout it. And when it's super dense at ground level, such as clover, that's going to inhibit some of that usage. Don't get me wrong, birds and broods will get to clover as they develop, but for the first couple weeks, which is essential and critical to be thinking about if you're wanting to raise turkeys, first 2 weeks prior to flight, they have to be able to walk where they're going. And so consider that, the density of your fall planting from your food plots, let it go fallow, let the weeds come in there, and then replant it for fall for deer season.